Meeting for Tuesday, April 13th, 2021, and let's convene the public hearing for Tuesday, April 13th, 2021. Good evening. So if I could, let's start from this side, Sandy, with introductions.
Sandy Piper's Finance Committee.
Howard D'Amico, Finance Committee.
Lynn Mazzulli, Finance Committee.
Heather Moore, Finance Committee.
Dick Vandenberg, Finance Committee.
Okay, so thank you all for coming this evening, and thank you for being patient as we get started just a little bit later than anticipated. I also am under the understanding that we do not yet have, and I think that's what I walked in on, a finalization of the budget for what's anticipated to be our May annual town meeting. So what I'm going to do is head forward with concepts and address certain departments and look for anyone to come up who would like to discuss their department, or if anyone has any questions with regard to any of the departments we're going to address. So if I may, I think I'm going to go a little bit in an order that I'm comfortable with, that I've seen as I've had groups come before me. And I'm actually going to start, if I may, I'm going to start with our public officials with the police department. Chief, if you want to come up, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, Chief, how are you? Good, how are you?
And so, Chief, really, I think that you've been before us already earlier this winter, this spring. And I guess what I would only ask you to do this evening is tell us if there's anything that's materially changed in your department or your numbers since the last time we saw you.
Okay. We do have a tentative agreement with the union for a new contract. So there have been some changes in the salaries,
Okay.
in those line items which Matt has been working on.
Okay.
And we also had some changes in personnel. I have a 20-year guy who's going out. He's going out on retirement. So we'll be filling his position with a younger first step officer who will be going into the academy. So there'll be some savings there. But the numbers I originally submitted to you will have the 1% COLA, and then there'll be an adjustment for, anticipated adjustment for accreditation. So the numbers for the full-time officers did change, and I do have those. I don't know if Matt has them in his.
Chief, I'm going to ask you also, I've been asked, could you please introduce yourself to the
Oh, I
public?
apologize. Yeah, sure. My name is Nick Migliano. I'm the chief of police in Dublin.
Thank you. You started to talk about the status of the new contract. What is, if you would, the timing that you anticipate when that might be finalized? Is that literally waiting just for board approval?
Yeah, it's at that point. We met with the union today, and the document has gone to their council, and the town's document has gone to town's council. So it's a matter of, it's looking at language, just getting approval from both sides, but there's a tentative agreement.
Okay.
That it's going to go, that these numbers will be pretty solid. So I anticipate that they'll have that probably signed by the end of this week.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So there was a slight increase. I want to say the whole package for everything with the new personnel, I don't have the old copy that I have, but I think it's going to be about a $40,000 adjustment
Okay.
in that ballpark that
Up or
Matt,
down?
that Matt has accounted for.
Okay.
I know in the sheet that he has.
And that's based on the anticipated contract?
That's on the anticipated contract.
And that personnel event you just described?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
And the only thing that is different that I'd like to bring to your attention for me this year is, this is the first time in a long time you'll see us coming back for special town meeting asking for additional money for our wage account.
Okay.
And the reason why we did that, last year, I had a lieutenant that retired, and with the anticipated cuts due to COVID, we didn't realize that the state was going to come in with the numbers that they did. If you recall, Matt made some decisions that we're going to make some cuts to certain line items. So when the lieutenant went out, he went out in September, we decided not to fill the position until July, and then, I'm sorry, till January.
Okay,
So we did it a little earlier, and that account is a little bit short.
okay.
So that's where that $20,000 is. I didn't want you to think it was an overspending or anything like that,
Sure.
but it was just an adjustment.
On
in-
salary.
Yeah, putting that
Okay.
position back in earlier than we anticipated.
Okay. Does anyone on the committee have any questions for the chief?
Chief, I had
Yes.
asked you, I think last time, if you saw anything in the future that we should be concerned about, anything different than 6 weeks ago, or not? You talked about some ammo and some stuff, I think.
Yeah, so the increase that we put, the initial increase that we put in the expense side, that was already, went in front of you, it was, I think, $10,000 more than it was last year. That is going to be sufficient for FY '22. In the near future, we don't have to talk about cruisers again till 2024. And like I spoke about briefly when I came before you last time, is I think it's, right now we have 15 full-time officers in the police department. We, in the past, have utilized part-time officers for a long time. There's police reforms that are being changed by the state, which is they're kind of messing around with the reserve officers, whether there's going to be even reserve officers in the future. So we don't know. I think it's time to start having that conversation about additional officers based on call volume, population. Things are starting to change. We're not as small as we used to be. 15 full-time officers we're getting by. We're still able to use the part-time officers, but at some point within the next couple of years, based on our call volume, our population, I want to start the conversation about adding 1 or 2 patrolmen.
Thank you.
Okay. Actually, before we get too much further, Phil, can you just introduce yourself for the record?
Yeah, Phil Landry, Finance Committee.
Okay, thank you. And anyone else on the committee have any questions for the chief? Does anyone in the public forum have any questions for the chief? Okay, Chief,
Thank you.
very
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. You're welcome. Appreciate it.
much. Chief Vincent? Vincent? Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Chief Vincent from the Fire Department.
Okay, and kind of the same question. Since the last time you were here in front of us, anything materially changed, Chief?
Nothing changed as far as expenses-wise from my presentation a couple of weeks ago.
Sure.
We did meet, let's see, what's today, Monday, with the union to finalize the contract, and there's a temporary agreement. That should be being signed, and it should be going to the selectmen as well. And the only changes there were our lieutenants we started moving them up on a wage scale as far as being supervisors and shift supervisors. They were making last time, I think it went up to 7% over 3 years. So the goal was to get them to about 14 or 15% to sort of mirror the police department eventually. So we didn't want to do that all in one bite of the apple because of fiscal reasons. So they added like 2, 3, and up to 7% last time. I just was looking at the contract this time. Get it back open, and this time, over 3 years, it'll go from 9, 11, and to 13%. So that, and the wage for a lieutenant would go up to, I think the top step is 3011 at the end of the contract, the last year of the contract.
Okay.
So that's the only changes there. And then we talked about the pre-screenings and the physical fitness that's been worked in the contract. The firefighters wanted to put in, as part of their contract, a voluntary physical fitness program. The fire department and fire service is a very strenuous job. A lot of demands on the cardiovascular system, exposures to a lot of carcinogens, so we want to do pre-screening for those type things. And as a stipend, they would be voluntarily have to do a physical fitness test once a year, and if they passed 100%, they could take, it's broken into thirds or quarters. Bottom line is, if they pass the 100% of the fitness, and this is just to try to keep people on edge and keep people physically fit, they would receive a $500 stipend. So if you multiply that times the amount of full-timers we have, it would come up to about $3,500. And
Okay.
that's part of the contract that was agreed upon temporarily Monday morning.
Okay,
And that's really all the other changes.
okay. I actually see you've also got a line item in the special town meeting, $10,000, and I think we had talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that as far as repairs with an aging fleet and things like that,
Okay,
and trying to bump that up in the, we did that going forward with the expense budget and repairs in this budget.
okay.
And that's really about it.
Does anyone on the committee have any questions for the chief? And does anyone in the public forum have any questions for the chief? Thank you, chief.
All right,
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief.
thank you.
Right. I am going to turn to the highway department, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is John Farno. I'm the highway superintendent.
And John, could you tell us, when were you in front of us? You were in front of us a little longer ago.
Yeah, that was like February, early February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything changed, John, in your budget?
Yeah, we had some changes after speaking with Mr. Wojcik. We're going to try to get some summer help back for the highway department.
Okay,
And also working with Blackstone Valley Tech, trying to get a co-op student in for the fall. Try to get recruitment to get maybe some young blood to come towards the highway department. So if we can get they have a co-op program. So if, we can get some spark from interest from a high school senior, that'd be great. So
John, you're young and full of spark.
I know that. Yeah.
Well done.
Just remind me at times, would you, please, Dick? As far as that's with wages. Expenses, Mr. Wojcik put back the money that, the cuts they made last year, the 2.5 or 3% back in our expenses
okay.
when they were concerned about the state aid. And then the only other thing is, we put $10,000 more in the snow and ice towards the salt.
Okay.
To try to get us a little more realistic. We're really getting there. We're getting closer every year now. It's a good feeling going in knowing we have $218,000 for snow and ice,
Okay,
We're at like $299 for this year.
sure.
So we're getting there. Better than the $125 we did for a long time,
Just need less snow.
I'm with you. I like to sleep.
Okay. Anybody on the committee have any questions for the highway department?
Nothing.
Anybody in the public forum have any questions for the highway department? Okay,
Thank you.
very much, thank you.
John,
Thank you.
Chris? Right, Chris? Adam, exactly, right, his brother.
Call any name out.
Anybody named Chris, you're up, you're up.
The other Furno.
How you doing? Adam Furno, maintenance manager for the town, also your highway foreman, fire captain. So the only changes I've had since we discussed was we found out Ricky Colinero, who's our custodian, is going to retire. He's officially calling it quits. So at this point, we were late in the game with this. This was new. Matt is taking his salary, put it in expenses. We're going to hire a company just a couple days a week right now to get us through. I'll pick up a little bit, the library, the senior center are going to pick up a little bit on their own, and then we'll just get through this, a couple days a week to clean the buildings. At this point, we'll see how it works after a year, and then adjust from there if we like it or we don't like it, and see how, which direction we want to go. But for right now, this is the avenue we're going to take, but everything else has stayed the same. So.
Okay, all right. Anyone with any questions for Adam's departments?
When's the retirement?
Retirement? Yeah.
Yeah,
What is-
when's his retirement?
So June 30th, we asked him to stay on. Actually, he was going to leave within 3 or 4 weeks after we met.
Okay.
But luckily, he's willing to stay on until June 30th because that really screws up the budget if not.
Okay.
So. And as for the oil spill, it's still going on, unfortunately. They're still cleaning up. We have an engineer that we have hired. I'm waiting for the plan from them. I don't know if the insurance will cover the replacement of equipment or not. That's still up in the air once we get the engineer involved. They want to take the old equipment to see if it's faulty, and then I guess if it is faulty the way however it's determined, written in the language of the insurance policy, then they'll cover it. If not, then the town will have to fund it. But I'm not exactly sure how that's written or worded or anything. So.
Is the truck there so often because there's just a lot?
They're they're vacuuming down below the floor, and they're taking up everything.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, they're testing it, and they test as they go, and once they complete the testing, they get so far down, there's no more levels in it, then they backfill it with some grout from like Dauphinese, and then they move to the next spot. So I'm hoping in the next 3 weeks, we should be pretty much wrapped up, but, it depends on what they find as they go, I guess.
Okay. Anyone in the public forum with any questions for Adam on any of his departments or responsibilities?
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Chris?
Right? Nicknames, that's how they start. Okay, how about the library department, please?
Vincent.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Justin.
Good, you? I actually don't think I've appeared before this board since 2019. It's been a while.
I know you weren't here last year, yeah.
So, 2020 was obviously a very interesting year, but we were the last library in CWMRs to close. We were one of the first to reopen after the first wave. And right now, we continue to be one of the only libraries in the region that is open to limited public browsing. You can come in, you can access the collections. That's been our goal. A lot of libraries throughout the Commonwealth has made delivery of virtual programmatic content their goal. Our goal has been to keep materials circulating, to keep people reading. To that end, things that are different about the library now, we do a home delivery route every Thursday. We have shifted a lot to 3 online digital platforms, Libby, Overdrive, digital ebook loans. Those have increased a lot. We have 2 video streaming services, Canopy and Curiosity Stream, which are kind of curated content for people to, watch things online. And our physical circulation itself of traditional materials hasn't been too shabby, given that we've tried our best to keep open and active throughout things. I think that, 2020 was a terrible year, but in terms of library service, it's hard to find one which has pushed us further forward. With introduction of home delivery, that's a big step. We've assisted dozens of elderly patrons with the shift to, the shift beyond the digital divide, who wouldn't have made the jump otherwise. And also, there was another thing I wanted to mention, which I don't remember what it is now, but it'll come back. What do y'all want to know?
Justin, can you do me a favor?
Oh, I'm Justin Snook, Library Director.
Yep, okay. All right. Any questions from the board or the finance committee?
So for your budget, Justin, is it somewhat reflective of a lower level because of COVID, or are you trying to kind of keep the funding for where you were prior to COVID, so to speak?
I am sticking with the budget that Matt has recommended. with his bottom lines. The issue is that digital material is more expensive than physical material. So whenever you have a shift towards that kind of usage, it ends up costing us more in terms of like, you know, the upfront material cost. Personnel, you know, you could argue isn't as necessary for that kind of loaning model, but we have found plenty other ways to keep ourselves busy.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'll just say thank you for thinking outside the box. Home delivery, I think, is, you know, for our population, as with COVID, everybody wants to stay home. They didn't want to go out. So kudos to you for thinking outside of the box. And we'll see what the next year comes. But, you know, I think that's where you've shifted your personnel now to the home delivery. So, I mean, it's right in line. I think it's a great little asset for the community. So thank you. That's
Thank
all I
you.
have.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Justin, that's great.
Anyone else? Questions for the library? Okay, thank you
Thanks.
very much.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
I'm going to go out of order a little bit, and Matthew, can you join us for a few minutes, please? And I know you, you know, have the disadvantage of having been out with the meeting with the board and coming back in the middle. So we tried to run through some of the boards, aware that you guys were still working on the budget. And I know you just came back in, and Jean came back in and handed us some math, some paperwork. Is this something you can speak to? Of what
Yeah,
this
so
now is?
So this format is what is produced for the Finance Committee in your flyer.
Okay.
So we try to replicate the same thing every year.
Okay,
And this is the budget that was just voted by the Board of Selectmen.
that's what I'm looking for.
Yes.
So what we've got at, you know, 7:35 is what came out of the last half hour since we last saw the board in here?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. All right, and I know that, again, while you were outside down the hall, both the police chief and the fire chief came before us and suggested that their perceptions were that each one had a tentative contract. They were now down to essentially votes and approvals. Can you speak to, has the Board of Selectmen for the town approved the police contract?
Yeah, there was no formal vote taken, but it's being recommended to the town that the town meeting ratify both tentative agreements. Excuse me. We're pending their legal counsel, their being specifically the police union, want through Friday to make sure that that's what they do, right? Check in with the state authorities. And Attorney Mazur's reviewed the vast majority of the language as it was being discussed. I would like his final stamp of approval myself, but I have every reason to be confident that both sides will be ready to rock and roll. So really, I don't stand on formality with this. The Board of Selectmen approved it to go onto the warrant. It will be posted with the town clerk by Friday, which is the 14 days, which I understand is the minimum, to May 3rd. We know May 3rd isn't going to be the actual day of the town meeting. So really, town meeting voters will have really close to 4 weeks to review the contract, right? Because not May 3rd, but May 15th, so an additional 12 days, 26 days to figure out any questions they want to ask. And then who ratifies it first is irrelevant, I think, as long as both bodies, the membership of the unions and town meeting ratify, the Board of Selectmen would sign and execute the contract with the union leadership of both unions.
Matthew, are the numbers we've been handed in the last 15 minutes the numbers that incorporate an anticipation that both of those contracts will be approved?
Down to the penny. So that was really the goal, Mr. Chairman. I know this comes late and all of that, but I really didn't want to have to clean this up in November. I'd rather have it all in the annual town meeting, so it's all in there.
So even though they're not yet officially approved, both by the unions and by the board, and obviously they've got to go before the town, these are the numbers we'll, if all goes well, as anticipated, between now and town meeting, these are the numbers, we'd look to seek approval on that, Tom.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I think if you don't mind, give us a few minutes and we'll proceed with
Yep.
other departments and come back. Thank you very much.
So the town meeting's the 15th?
Well, we'll get to that too. We've got Keith in the bullpen. So, correct? Yeah, sure, he went out for a snack. Okay. I think I have the department formerly known as the senior center somewhere.
No,
No?
I don't,
Full of aging.
oh,
The Council on Aging.
I was
Ah,
wondering where Teresa
Okay.
was.
Could you please identify both yourself and your department, please?
I'm having trouble with my video. I'm trying to pop on. I'm Patrice Russo. I am the Director and Outreach Case Manager of the Douglas Adult Social Center, formerly the Senior Center.
Social Center, the Social
Yep.
Center, okay. And could you give us just an update on where you're at with your budget, please?
So many other departments, I also have a retiree this year. So my 19-hour-a-week secretary has decided to retire. We've had a tremendous increase in outreach with, even before the COVID, but now with the COVID. So my part-time assistant Jennifer was at 15 hours. I would like to put her to 30, and then I would still need to be able to replace my 19-hour part-time person, which will now be 15 hours.
Okay,
I've been doing both jobs for, oh God, well over 8 years. And at this point, it's just so busy for one person. That's why Jennifer was hired to do cross-training a little bit and outreach and then help around the office during our big events. And now we've just kind of outgrown part-time, and I really need somebody that's, you know, pretty much almost full-time. This year, especially with COVID, we're anticipating opening in June with small groups, which means we're going to have to open for more hours to be able to socially distance all the groups. So every group is going to have multiple times throughout the day so we can cut the class sizes down.
and are the numbers, the costs for the new hours reflected in the submission we have from the town administrator?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, for 2022.
Okay.
It shows the part-time position that's going to be at 15 hours, and it will show the increase in the part-time assistant to 15 more hours a week.
And I've got your budget at 123,351. Does that sound correct?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. Any questions from the committee for the social center?
No.
And anyone from the public forum with any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, Patrice.
Thanks.
And Matthew, I'm going to come back to you in a minute. Any other department heads here other than the school committee, which we'll reserve for a couple of minutes?
Building department?
Building.
How you doing? Ken Frazier, Building Commissioner.
Okay.
The building department has gone to a full-time department now instead of a part-time department. The activity levels is through the roof as far as new permitting, new projects going on, bigger projects going on. This year, we just introduced a new online permitting system, which seems to be being taken very well with the public. So that's making things a little quicker in the department also. So.
I'm a little unfamiliar with the building department as who currently is part of its workforce.
I have one part-time administrative assistant.
Okay,
37 hours a week,
Okay,
and then one full-time being myself, the building commissioner.
okay. And is that what you said, is that a change from part-time to full-time?
Yeah, the commissioner is from part-time to full-time.
Okay,
Yeah. I think previously it was 19 hours a week, and now it's gone to full-time.
and practically, what is the substantial change in what you are doing that needed that many more hours?
Well, we're trying to bring everything in line with the new permitting system. We have a lot of new projects, a lot of bigger projects coming down the line. We have a lot of new house construction. There's been a lot of things that have been slipping through the cracks. There's a lot of code issues, code violations that we're trying to correct and trying to get on top of, and try to get the people in the town to be doing the permitting the way they should be doing, and bringing the safety level of the public buildings up, along with the fire suppression systems, and dealing with that, and getting online with the fire department.
Do you see Douglas being one of the towns with a big boom in building? You read that there's just a lot of pent-up demand for housing and so on and so forth. Are we going to be part of that wave? Or
I see it already happening.
Yeah.
I mean, we put the online permitting system in. We started that about the second week of March. So I was just looking actually before I came to the meeting. Online permitting, we've already done 109 permits from March till today online. That doesn't include the walk-in permits, the mail-in permits that we get. So we're probably, in a month's period of time, we're probably upwards of 120 to 130 building permits of electrical, plumbing, and building. So it is definitely a fast time, yeah.
And how does your department interact with the town engineer?
Well, currently, we don't have a town engineer.
That's where I was headed.
Yeah, so,
when we did,
Yeah.
how did the two departments crisscross?
well, unfortunately, when I came in January and Bill left, I think 3 weeks after I came in, so normally you would work in unison with each other. I mean, so if you get projects, subdevelopments coming in, that'll go through the planning board, engineering department, or our town planner to get that in the concept. And then once it's in the concept, it comes to the building department for permitting, issuing, and guidance on the whole project. So they'll be coming, the builder will come and get a building permit, all his permits required. We'll go out as a building department, do all the inspections. At the end of the project, we'll do a site walkthrough to make sure that the site is at the levels that it was supposed to be according to the planning board plans.
Okay. Okay. Matt, I'm going to come back to you in a minute with a couple of questions that I think are probably a little more for you than for Ken, but just so I understand kind of both a little bit. Any other questions for Ken from the Finance Committee? And any from the public forum? Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Matt, can you join us again for just a couple of minutes, kind of on that? Is it the concept for the town that, if you will, the department will expand in terms of what it would be doing, and the Bill's job description shrink? Or is there a perception that both will be needed larger than they were?
I was hoping that an abundance of response to the job posting would give the town a range of choices to answer your question.
Okay.
And I don't see that happening. I haven't gotten a single response, and I've advertised in a lot of places.
Okay.
And there's a dynamic interplay, right, between a zoning official and the planning board, which in many times is enforcing parts of the zoning code. And the zoning code, as you know, whenever we amend it, it's a planning board decision. It's driven by the planning board. They opine and they speak to town meeting about the recommendation. The zoning official is the enforcement official who enforces what town meeting puts into the zoning code. So as these two forces go back and forth, well, what's the best way to deal with X or Y or Z? You could say, I could, as a manager, assign more than one person to, for instance, enforce the conditions of site plan review, right? I could send the town engineer, who was the administrative officer for the planning board, to enforce the will of the planning board.
Yeah.
But I could also send the zoning official to do the same thing, because site plan review is part of the zoning code, and he is the zoning official. So and all of that gets tied up with, the zoning board technically is a zoning board of appeals. And they will be hearing appeals from the decision of either the planning board or the zoning official, who should, in my opinion anyway, be building a record that would go up to the zoning board of appeals. So I think we've done a lot of things very informally in the past, where either the town engineer or the building official, zoning official would go to a site, make certain observations, and either enforce or not enforce, but there wasn't this very formal but necessary documentation and appeal process that we need to have. So I actually think that, to Bill's credit, and to his work ethic and to his intellectual ability, he was able to do so many different things, right? He was a town engineer who did plan review. He also sort of got sucked into picking up whatever the part-time zoning official at the time couldn't get to or do or have an opinion on, and managed a relationship with land council and all of the things that happened. But I would expect the zoning official would build some of those relationships himself. Where is the difference going to be is the entire planning board process, from the time that preliminary application process begins. There's a tech review that happens before that, then there's preliminary plan review, and then there's definitive. And there's all the meetings and the public hearings and the advertising and the advice. There needs to be somebody who does that job, and that is not the zoning official's job. It doesn't have to be an engineer either. It has to be someone who understands the planning board process. This is one place where Rhode Island does something that's a little bit more thoughtful than Massachusetts. The title is Administrative Officer of the Planning Board. And it's the understanding that I have an application, I'm going to hand it to you, and you're going to determine its completeness, and you're going to have comments to make, and the planning board would review those comments. I still need that role to be filled. That's not a town engineer level of compensation. It's about $20,000 short of that. And that's what I'd like to get to, that point where I've got a seasoned professional who can do that, and with perhaps some money left over either for additional engineering resources to be hired on an as-needed basis, or another part-time person in the office to make the process go. And I have yet to go circle back with the project manager for e-permitting, but the contract we signed for e-permitting included planning board documents and conservation commission documents, so that any land use application could be done electronically, and that entire group, community development and building office, would all be on the same platform. The data would cross-pollinate, and they would be able to see each other's documents. That's the goal. As a side note, but I think it's important sometimes to remind people of how we pay for this stuff. The entire installation of the e-permitting software was CARES Act funded, because it was a response to the need to close this building and give people access to their town government through electronic means. So the annual subscription fees are part of the budget, but the installation, which was very, not a trivial sum of money, was all paid out of CARES Act.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah. Matt, in the budget we've got in front of us, is that town engineer position a position that gets covered in the community development portion of the budget?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And so at the moment, there's a placeholder there, but not necessarily a person in one of the positions for that.
That's correct. I think I budgeted that at the same grade as Bill, but about 8 steps below. So that wages line on the community development budget on page 2 includes the community development director, a part-time staff person, that's Maria's staff, and a part-time management level conservation agent are all paid out of that line.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee for Matt on this issue? Really on the community development part? Sure.
So Matt, the 165 is a little lower than the 178. Is that because you anticipate whoever comes in is going to be at a lower step?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so when Mr. Cundiff left, he was at step 10, and management 5, step 10, which is the highest rate of pay in the town. I was looking for either a management 4, level 5, step 5, or a level 5, step 2. That's the range I'm advertising for the position, so roughly between 82 and 86,000. I think I may have to go higher than that.
And you've gotten not one response?
Not one, and I was starting to feel a little self-conscious about that, like, what, do I stink or something? But Uxbridge is out there at the same time, in cooperation with Millville and Mendon, looking for a full-time planner to share, and they have not gotten any
I was gonna
resumes
ask if it was
either.
possible to, like, share one person between towns.
I'm profoundly opposed to that.
Yeah.
Not as a general rule. I think there's a time and a place for that. And there are some things, like the academic piece of planning, I never want to have on site, because I just think that's something that we should ask CMRPC for and pay them fee for service if we think we need it. We are extremely busy. I mean, Ken's being humble. I think the other day he had 14 inspections. All those permits, there's an inspection to close a lot of that stuff. So we're incredibly busy. So a subdivision plan comes in, that office is really, really busy, and I don't want that person to say, well, I got a big one just came in for Uxbridge too, I can't help you. That doesn't work for me. So I don't think it works for the town either. A lot of these land use things, if you don't get to them by a certain time, they're constructively approved. That is not a good place to be.
I know, frankly, as you were coming in, we had a gentleman who filled in on a temporary basis and who was a person available, community to community, to do that kind of thing. Is there a similar pool available for this type of position?
So what I'm doing right now is I have a contract with CMRPC, and I have, he says 8, but it's more like 12 hours of a professional planner coming in and reviewing applications. I've also asked the engineer of record to provide me with a quote for additional services. So they were typically hired to do very specific things. But those occasional things that Bill would do that an engineer has to do, so witnessing a soil test, for instance, we're asking them to step up and bill through to the applicant, but we don't want to get in people's way and slow down their projects, so we're not letting that happen.
Okay.
We're looking to move in special town meeting a certain quantity of funds out of the salary line, community development, into the expense line for fiscal '21 to pay for those contracts going forward.
Okay. Anyone else on the committee for questions on this issue? Anyone in the public forum for questions on this issue, this department? Thank you, Matt.
Thanks. Well said with me.
For the moment, yes. Any other department heads that yes, please.
Is a real big spender, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I know. Right?
Kristen Harris, Board of Health.
Okay.
Where to?
And were you in front of us this spring for a few minutes?
No.
Okay. Can you just give us a quick update then on your department?
So, yes, COVID is pretty much running the department now. So we're spending a lot of time. We have the clinic in Uxbridge. So Agnieszka, the nurse, and I spend a few days a week there, a few shifts a week. And it's pretty much taken over our life. I mean, on top of everything else.
Can I ask where the clinic is?
Yep, it's McCluskey
Oh,
School.
all right, so where they're doing the COVID vaccine.
Yeah, so we tried to do 4 towns, and the state approved it. And as soon as we were asking for the vaccines, they said, you know what, no, we're not going to do small towns anymore. So you can do a regional clinic if you can do 750 vaccines a week, 5 days a week. 750 a day, 5 days a week. So we said, okay. So we got 12, there's 12 towns now. So we're not getting that much. We ask for what we get, what they give us. So it's running really smooth. I don't know if anybody's been there. It's really.
Booked an appointment today.
Did you?
For Patrice.
So.
Okay. Any changes substantially? I see your number seems to have gone up considerably.
Yep, so I'm asking for a part-time, 14-hour-a-week person.
Okay.
Before COVID, I needed somebody, but I feel like I'm just getting done what needs to get done. I'm not really doing what should be done. Even before COVID, we have, the emergency planning. We really need to get more on top of that, and we've noticed that ever since this happened. We just weren't prepared. There's a lot that needs to be done, Board of Health, that we can't do. So my number went up 14 hours a week for a part-time person, and the nurse only worked 7 hours a week, and now we put in for another 7 hours a week.
Okay.
I don't think COVID, it's going to be a little while, and we're getting inundated. I don't know if boosters are going to come, or how long the vaccine lasts, or.
Okay.
But she's a lot of work she can do. She does a lot with the emergency planning, and that's a lot of work in itself. Before COVID.
In the non-COVID.
In the non-COVID world.
What was were your top 3 categories of being busy?
Septic, and now buildings exploding, so I'm very busy with septic.
Before COVID, I mean.
Before COVID.
Before
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, even now, there was developments even before COVID hit coming in.
Oh, really?
So septic's really busy. We do the transfer station, so I'm really busy with that. We do wells. I do all the installers licensing, and anybody that's doing Title V's come in, and I have to do all things for them. Swimming pools, I have the animal inspector, so he does barn inspections, so I do all that paperwork. The landfill maintenance.
Is the transfer station one of your bigger things? would you say?
Yes, it's a big thing, yep.
Okay.
Yep. Septic is probably the biggest.
Is it?
Yeah. Yep.
So these are ongoing things regardless of COVID, right?
Yes.
That's-
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Because at transfer station, you have always something going on. There's stickers to sell. I do the compost stickers for Uxbridge. It's just, there's a lot of things happening in that department. On top of the phone calls we're getting now and emails, and I'm on webinars hours a week and trainings, and just for COVID.
Any other questions for the Board of Health? From the committee? Any from the public forum? Jean?
I just want to remind the Finance Committee that part of Kristen's salary is actually charged to the transfer station. So you only see part of her salary, and she's requesting an additional 14 hours. And Agnieszka, the town nurse, it's not a full year budget in here. We anticipate the CARES Act to be covered up until December 31st of 2021. So this would be probably at least for the second half of that year.
Jean, what were the last sentence you said? This would be the what for the
The
last?
CARES Act, which we're allowed to charge
Right.
any
Yep.
additional hours that are non-budgeted.
Yep.
We've been charging the additional hours the town nurse has been working to the CARES Act. So it's a grant that the town received. So what you see for an increase here is for half a year, basically.
Next calendar year, the second half of the upcoming
second half.
fiscal year. Okay, all right, thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Do I have any other departments other than the school committee?
I think you can grab the whole finance department. That's online. There's no big changes for us.
Okay,
Other than Beth is going to be retiring, so you can see. But the finance department consists of the town accountant's position, the treasurer collector, and the board of the assessors. Beth has an additional increase in that because we are going to provide a buffer for some overlap for that position, just to provide some transition. She's going to be terribly missed. There's also a reval article on the special town meeting.
is it just me or are a lot of people retiring?
Yeah,
A lot of people are retiring.
yeah,
What's that?
We do. We've had quite a few people
we
leave.
do. It's a little sad.
Okay,
I think, Cheryl, the only other increase was tax title.
Howard World.
okay, all right.
Tax
And
title.
the extra on the special is to carry me through June.
Okay,
And then you'll see the decrease because most of the research has been
Okay.
done on those big parcels.
okay. I apologize, I need both of you to actually introduce yourselves, please.
Oh, Jean Lovett, Finance Director, Town Accountant,
Okay,
Cheryl Vadia, treasurer collector.
okay,
and Beth's online.
that- okay.
Mine.
Okay,
So there's no big changes. I think the biggest change was the increase in the tax title, and that's just the volume, and then, like I said, the overlapping and for the principal assessor.
not to go out of department, Suzanne is also retiring, correct?
Yeah.
She's not in your department,
She's
correct?
not.
She comes.
Matt.
Matt's
She
department.
reminds me that she doesn't work for me. She does that all the time.
Fair enough, fair enough, perfect, okay, all right. Any questions for the finance department? And anyone in the public forum with any questions for the finance department? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you all. Thank you very much. Paul?
Howard, Jean wanted me to speak about rescheduling the town meeting. I don't know if that has to do with the finance department or when you'd like me to chime in on that.
Jean, you had suggested to me that that would be at the end. I don't mind bringing,
I think you have to close the public hearing. I believe the school department's left, but
okay.
yeah.
Keith, I've got to keep you in the bullpen.
Yeah, that's fine.
Per Jean, by the way, just saying, you know.
Is he in the bullpen or is he on deck?
He's in the bullpen. I guess.
Okay.
He's in the bullpen. Paul and Courtney, please go up.
I'm not sure I saw him on the on-deck side.
Right, sure, either way. Okay, good evening.
All right, good evening. Paul Vieira, Superintendent of Schools.
Courtney Keegan, Business and Operations Manager.
Okay, great, thank you both for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
And so I know we saw you recently.
Correct.
Again, just the same idea. Anything that's substantially changed since the last time we
Sure.
talked to you?
So the last time we were here, we were at a 4.77% increase over the FY21 town appropriation. Since then, we've been able to, we had our public hearing with the school committee last week. We came in at the 1.5% increase over our town appropriation, which is a hair over, I think it's $14,727 for the school department. So we were able to do that by utilizing some more school choice funding, and we felt comfortable doing that from when we met last to when we had a public hearing. We finalized some additional ESSER 3 money that came in, and that money materialized and stabilized. So we were able to move some more money out of school choice into our operating in order to mitigate that 4.77% to 1.5% gap.
And my recollection was that was kind of a ballpark where you were anticipating that, right, getting in front of us,
Correct.
right,
Yeah.
in that range. And so you were able to meet that goal.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we actually received several grants that we were just notified of in the last 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay,
So we received the FY21 Rural
Great.
State Aid Grant, $49,125. That was $36,000, I think $127.36, a weird number. Then we received $49,125 that has to be also spent by June 30th. We were able to utilize that to remove some expenditures from FY22. Now, what we try to do is do one time, like technology and things of that nature, so it wouldn't create an ongoing problem. And in reviewing the general fund budget and looking at all the revolving funds as well, we felt comfortable. I mean, looking forward, well, we felt comfortable for the FY22 budget, utilizing more of the school choice because of what we expect to have left over at the end of this year.
Okay. Okay.
So all of those in totality brought us down to that.
I guess my practical question is, are you satisfied with that number as much as you can do? Are you satisfied that you've been able to do what you want to be able to do at that number?
For FY22, yes.
Okay, all right. That's, I think I find that to be one of the major parts of where there might be a suggestion from this committee to run a different proposal by the town. But for the moment, at this time, for FY 2022.
FY22.
For FY22.
Okay, fair enough.
Correct.
Any questions for the school department? And hold on, any questions from the public forum with the school department? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, unless anyone has any other business in the public hearing, public forum, then we're going to close the public hearing portion of tonight's Finance Committee meeting. Okay? And I thank you all for coming. We're going to proceed with other business, but I think we're good with everyone's participation. Does anyone on the Finance Committee need anybody here for any of the potential warrant votes we're going to be asked to take? Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
All right. Say goodbye to Chris.
I'm making Mr. Sullivan stay because you have 4 articles that came to the water sewer department.
I'm going to join the new.
So when I said anybody that needs to stay, I really did allude to Jean, who would know who needed to stay. Thank you. Yeah. I'm going to turn then to the either on-deck circle or the bullpen and get Mr. Menard's input. Come on in. So, yeah, come on up.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
Yeah.
See well, I wanted to, is someone going to be Matt going to come back into the main?
He might,
Probably.
yeah, he might. Yeah.
That's why I.
There, I got it warm for you,
Whatever
Phil.
works.
Don't get a chair.
Okay.
Keith, are you up there?
I am.
All right. So I think we've been asked to talk with you about what our current perceptions are, your current perceptions are with regard to town meeting this spring.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. I'll be issuing a statement tomorrow that will be moving, recessing and continuing, which is just another fancy way of saying we'll be moving town meeting to May 15th, 10:30 a.m. at the same field that we had it the last 2 times.
And the weather, 70 degrees and sunny?
With any luck.
Okay,
But
well,
I'll tell you, the colder and rainy makes it go really fast.
cut that out. Cut that out.
And the budget.
That's a good point.
The budget is up 300%. Anyone complaining
All right.
in this ring?
So, Jean, do you need to know any more than that?
I wanted to open up the conversation to you. Keith, how does it have to be presented in the flyer? Are you going to be at the town meeting on May 3rd? Can you just walk us through the process of the continuation?
No, there is no town meeting on May 3rd. If you read the Mass General Law that our lawyer shared with us, it just needs to be, basically a declaration with plenty of time for the the residents to know that it's been moved. So, like I said, I'll be sending out a letter to the Board of Selectmen tomorrow, as well as the town clerk. We'll start posting that the meeting's been moved.
Okay, and you'll put a message in the flyer?
Yeah, if Howard will allow me that space.
Yeah, either one of us.
Will allow me that space, I'll definitely be including something in the flyer.
I would certainly prefer to have the flyer have one date, the May 15 date and location, than May 3rd to be continued to May 15th. Keith, are you comfortable writing it as May 15?
Yeah, I mean,
Do you think?
I'll send you the language, you let me know what you think.
Okay, but you've got it.
Technically, it's citing the Mass General Law that, you know, the way that I would write it is, you know, it's being continued, recessed and continued to May 15th, parentheses, which is a really fancy way of just saying the meeting will be held on May 15th.
Why is it being moved, Keith?
I'm sorry?
Why is it being moved?
The Attorney General is not really allowing us to take the precautions that we need to in order to have a safe meeting indoors. And I'm not going to choose the voting rights of those who refuse to work for the public safety of others at the expense of those who do.
Okay,
I think that answer works.
Yep.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, if you can, I would leave that space for Keith, you know, look to see what it is and how that plays out. Gene, are you satisfied? Do you think it's got to in any way say May 3rd?
I don't know the legality of it. I'm going to defer to Keith.
Yeah, I think so.
I wasn't sure, I didn't know, Keith, if you were going to be there that night and then you had to continue. I didn't know how the process was going to work.
I don't think.
No. There, like I said, there is no need for an in-person meeting on that day.
Or a proclamation, no public proclamation that night. Okay, all right.
So
Gene,
if he can work with Suzanne as to what legally has to be put on the flyer,
okay,
I just want to make sure that the taxpayer is aware of the date, because I think by bylaw, it's always the first Monday of May.
right. But we did this last spring. We had
Well,
this
we
issue.
didn't have a town meeting last spring.
We had to, and we continued it, and this is the same event.
No, we postponed it to the fall. We didn't have a spring town meeting.
The legislature authorized the Board of Selectmen to change the date, so the board did that. With that authority no longer.
Which was an emergency.
Interesting,
It's an
so
emergency.
I apologize. I did see it as the same thing, just a much longer continuance last year. But you're saying it was under a separate authority.
But there
Okay,
was no flyer sent out in May, and I think for me, the confusion would be having May 3rd on the
Yeah.
flyer and then having town meeting on another date.
no, perfect. I think we're all on the same
I
page.
understood it either, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Keith,
and
if you
we
could-
can certainly ask Rich Bowen about that. He wrote the law. So,
Okay, thank you, Keith.
anything else?
I don't think so. Any questions for Keith? Any other questions? No. Thank you, Keith.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
Keith.
you.
Matthew, anything else you think you want to give us for an update? Or did we cover a lot in the little blips in the last hour?
I think you covered a lot. I just want to briefly touch on economic development, because that position was, part-time position was added in the fall. We're finally going to sit down with the developer tomorrow potential developer of the old McIntyre pit.
The flip.
The flip, and get, much more detailed information about their timeline and their intentions. And meanwhile, Mr. McIntyre's special permit application is progressing through the planning board process, zoning board process. This is really a watershed year in the budget. This is what I think a lot of people have always hoped for, that you would reach a point where you could see a light at the end of the tunnel. That if one last collective bargaining unit is able to come along with us, we would establish the budget of the town to run with the growth of revenues of the town, which means that everybody's job is going to change in a really positive and energizing way. Instead of trying to find a way to get the last 50 cents to buy the last stamp, in a prudent fashion, people will be able to look at what it is that they want to achieve with their department to improve the quality of service provided to the people of the town. And there will be a lot of big decisions, because everybody's wish list will still be more than the town can afford. But you'll actually be able to have conversations around prioritization and accountability and doing all the things that public servants are really supposed to be doing and are supposed to be good at, and not just trying to find a way to make that truck run one more year. And having worked with municipalities that were always on the edge, either of bankruptcy or of, actually running a deficit in a year, these last 3 years have really been hard work, but it's been worthwhile. And I understand the indulgence of all of the decision makers in town, because we're always rushing, right? We're always coming in the last minute. But we do have a plan. We are on a focused path, and I think everybody can see it unfolding. And we couldn't do it without the patience of the Finance Committee and town meeting and the Board of Selectmen giving us, the department heads and the town administrator, enough flexibility to be able to put this into place. And most of all, though, the taxpayers who approved an override 3 years ago that made all of this possible. That's the single most important thing. But I think we can fairly say that the representations we made to the town have been truthfully accomplished, and this is where it puts you. And I think that the long-run picture is that a more competitive school district and a budget that's more reliably in tune with the revenues of the town will reduce volatility in the future, and we'll be able to talk about stabilization and diversification of tax base. And it's really going to be, I think, a solid time. We are also blessed, and sometimes you just have to acknowledge that there are some really important things that are not in your control. The economy. Real estate is essential for a suburban, rural community like Douglas. If real estate's hit the skids and there's nothing moving, then your budget is really severely constrained. And the key is to try to wean yourself away from complete dependency on the residential tax base and get to a healthier blend, which is, I think, some combination of solar, cannabis, and commercial development will get you there. So thanks to everyone. My allergies have progressed to the point that I can neither speak nor can I see at this point. So there are two. I went through everything with the Board of Selectmen, so it's on the record from about an hour and a half ago. We have a tentative agreement with both of our public safety unions that's very well within our spending parameters. We're benefiting from some personnel churn, some unplanned, and I think for the individual police officer, unfortunate circumstances leading to a retirement. But what that does is it takes people at the high end of our compensation table when they leave, and then we replace them with probationary officers and first-year patrolmen who are much less expensive. So when you're negotiating a police contract, it gives you some flexibility to work with the main group in a way that motivates them and rewards them for their accomplishment as an accredited agency, but doesn't rapidly increase the budget for their department. So it was a healthy place to be to do what we did, which is 3% of the base as part of accreditation, and they agreed to the same COLA as the rest of the town. So 1%, 2% next year, 1.75 in year 3. And the firefighters agreed to the same thing. And there were other minor changes to the police contract. The shift differential is going to be adjusted to be more competitive with other departments. Most of our conversation with the police union was economics. The firefighters, on the other hand, was organizational. So we had very little to talk about economic-wise. The fiscal impact of that contract is not much more than $10,000. A couple of wage increases, so call it $25,000 to be 100% accurate. But that's still a really cheap labor contract. Even though it's only 7, 8 people, it's still not a lot of money. There, we built the promotional process and the rank structure in the contract. So the role of captain is created, but there is no additional headcount created. So one of the 3 lieutenants may aspire to take the tests and do the interviews to get an additional bugle, get another promotion and a 7% bump in their pay, but there won't be another lieutenant hired to replace that person. They'll continue to be the shift commander, and that'll be the way it works. So the entire promotional process, what's in it, the testing, the credentials, et cetera. And lastly, and I think it goes together, the firefighters union asked for a physical fitness incentive. So if they complete, it's a voluntary participation, but if they complete a physical fitness test, they'll get an incentive payment of up to $500, which is real money. It helps us because it keeps people motivated to stay in shape, because being in shape is an important part of that job. On the flip side, we added to the contract extensive medical examinations, because under the law, firefighters have a number of presumptions when they come down with certain illnesses for purposes of both injured on duty pay and or disability pension qualification. And if we're asking people to stay in shape, then we also want to screen them aggressively every single year to catch things early so that we don't find ourselves on the wrong side of the presumptions. So this was a very forward-thinking firefighter contract. It was a joy to work with them on that. So I think it would be remiss not to bring that up, Mr. Chairman. Lastly, I have yet to write the language, and this is, shame on me for getting caught in a traffic jam in Providence this afternoon, because it's only going to take me about 5 minutes, but I have spoken at some great length about this, especially before the select board, but also I think in front of you, that the compensation tables of the town have become somewhat ossified. And we have a large number of people who are at the top step and who have, in some cases, worked for the town for 20 years and only gotten a COLA. And there's been no reward for the longevity and the loyalty. And so I'm going to add really simple language to a proposal for town meeting to vote. Will have two components. One would be the establishment of a $1,000 longevity incentive for anyone who during the fiscal year celebrates their 15-year anniversary with the town, which means they would have been at the top step for a full 5 years before they're eligible for a $1,000 bump. Part two of that construct is that it will take effect in fiscal '22. It will go out of effect whenever town meeting approves a successor compensation plan to the one in existence in fiscal year '22. So if we fix this thing, then the proposal should make longevity go away. So it's not going to be a permanent part of our arrangement with our employees. If you look at the police contract, there's an extensive table there about how they progress through their steps. I think the way the town did it, and I think the impulse is very defensible, right? They wanted a merit-based system. And so you would have evaluations every year, and you would have the opportunity to get additional steps based on your performance. But that's much harder to administer than people realize, and it was not observed at all. So when I started here, there were no job descriptions, no evaluations. Very few evaluations had been done after 2007. I started here in 2017. So in some cases, like even this year, the fire chief got his first full performance review in 14 years. So that's not how the system was working. It was really, it's another year, it's another step. Until I've run out of steps, then I don't get anything except for the COLA. If you look at the police, the way the police work it, and the state of Rhode Island public employees work the same, very similarly, there's a probationary period when, frankly, you are underpaid because you're not really a permanent employee. I think our bylaw says six months. The police union, it's a year because they have more to do. But there's some period up front, right? And then you get a couple of bumps fairly quickly because you're supposed to be learning your job and coming up to speed. And by the time you get to year 5, you really should have been exposed to most of the challenges of your job. And then you don't get another step for about 5 years, right? And then after that, when you get steps, it's really to say you're continuing to do a good job. So every 5 years, you get another step until year 20 or 25. So that takes 10 steps and boils it down to 6 or 7, but stretches it out over 20 years. And I think that's a much fairer way to do it. There'll still be room for merit, and that's going to be the big conversation, right? How do we build merit into that? I have my ideas, but it ends up with 2, right? Parallel tracked. One's time-based, the other's merit-based. You accelerate time based on merit. Right, so, yeah, you were supposed to wait 5 years for a step, but you've performed so well, I'm going to cut 2 years off of that, so your step will come in 3 years instead of 5. It's just a thought. Long-winded explanation, but that's why it's needed, because I think we're getting into this whole conversation about the town engineer position is getting me, and a couple of other things I've had to advertise out. I feel terrible about this because I hate advertising someone's replacement at a salary that's equal to or even greater than the salary they're earning, and they've been here for 20 years. That's pretty awful position to find yourself in. But at the same time, I have a job to do, right? I can't leave vacancies because I can't compete for the salary. I just got to fill the position. So I think that's kind of where we're at. Now, longevity would help us kind of like keep the wolves at the door until we're ready to move up. But I think the next time you see a personnel budget, it will be up, from this year. We tried to hold the line pretty much this year, but it'll be up next year to accommodate a new table.
Okay.
Are there any other questions about anything that?
I have one, Matt, and that is, you had sent an email a while ago about some of the money we're getting from the feds and how we're going to spend it and so on. Is there a ad hoc committee that's going to be set up, or just selectmen, or what's your vision on that?
My vision on that is exactly that, an ad hoc committee that will free-form, brainstorm ideas. It's not a limitless pot, right? It's 890 grand, and I don't know how far we'll be able to stretch that. When you get a windfall like that, you really want to be strategic. The tendency would be to say, well, it's real. So we have a culvert collapsing on Depot Street. I'd be inclined to say, let it go, right? There's water and sewer in that road. I can't let it go. Can't have a broken sewer line in a water body. That would be horribly embarrassing. Not to mention disastrous. So the tendency would be to try to hurry up and fix that, and whew, we had that extra money. But really what we want to do is apply for grants for that culvert replacement and try to push the envelope there and try to hold that 890 back for something that's really either going to leverage an economic development project as a match or get us to the point where we've paid for all the engineering, so we're shovel ready. So our score in competitive grants will go up considerably. Those are some of the thoughts for it. In the interest of honesty, there's pretty significant regulation coming down the pipe, and there's mandatory testing that will begin this October of all drinking water across the Commonwealth for a specific contaminant called PFAS. It's in Teflon. It's in any sort of liquefied jelly plastic that was used either for fire suppression or stick-proof, easy wash stuff. It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Well, it's also a carcinogen, right? And not to be imbibed. The threshold test is 20 parts per trillion. Now, if you can wrap your head around just how small that is, it's mandatory. If you test over 20, you're going to have to fix it. The town of Dudley, not that far away from here, is looking at an $11 million project to build a purification plant that can handle this specific contaminant. So we all have to test for it. So what if we find it, right? So that's in the back of our minds. We do need to squirrel away some resources, and we need to be very upfront about the results, because there's no way the ratepayer in Douglas can foot that. That will have to be a town investment.
This is drinking water.
Drinking water, yeah.
Potable drinking water.
So are you going to throw that ad hoc committee together?
Yeah, so I'll ask the selectmen to make the list, but I think it should be as cast as broad a net as possible on how to go about it.
Thank you.
Okay.
What's next?
Any other? Yes. So can we go to the articles for the special town meeting first? Gene, do you want to speak to any of these?
If you have any questions, I'm happy to.
Okay, so let's, if everyone's got that document in front of them. Phil, did you get a set as you came in?
Actually printed out the one that I had from email, but I'm
So
not sure if it's the
I
same.
think the annual town meeting one has been updated. We got a new doc tonight. Gene, do you have one more set of the annual for?
Yeah, right here.
Oh, okay, we've got them, we've got them.
Yeah, no, I don't have these copies, but I have, the warrant copy,
So
which are probably different.
We're going to look at the special town meeting first. Article 1, these are budget transfers and amendments for, this fiscal year. And Gene, am I correct that this math becomes a net zero number? Okay. So does anyone have any questions with regard to Article 1? Some of these topics were discussed by their department heads this
I can
evening.
run through them quickly if you want.
I don't want.
You don't want
So anyone have any questions? No questions, why don't we take a vote on whether we would recommend approval of Article 1 for the special town meeting warrants?
I'll
And I
move we
think-
recommend Article 1.
Gene, do you think we need a voice vote here?
We
I mean,
have a new minute taker, so I would just to get her.
to get everybody
Yes,
each
please.
time? Okay, so this is going to be a little time consuming, so let's nonetheless head into it and go through it. So
I wonder, Howard, just point of order, at the town meeting, the town moderator will go, hearing no objection. Is that another way you can do a lot of these rather than one?
I don't think so in this forum tonight.
Okay.
I do think it's got to
Town
be.
meeting, maybe.
Roberts will
Yeah,
let you
a
do it.
different event, yeah. So let's go with Article 1. Dick, the vote? Oh, so we had a motion to recommend it from Dick.
I'll second.
Phil, a second, and a vote, starting over with Dick, and we'll run around each time.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Kuiper's aye.
Phil Landry, aye.
Okay, let's go to Article 2 of the special town meeting warrant, the assessor's revaluation.
This is a special article, and it's meant to stop the revaluation process for FY '23. I know, crazy, huh?
Yeah,
Can you explain what that would be? What is involved with this? What are we spending the money on?
yeah.
I'm not
Gene, if you
familiar.
would come up on this one?
Yeah.
Are you okay coming forward into, or
Yeah,
do you
I'll
want to
sit
stay
back
back?
a little
Yeah.
bit.
For someone to review all the houses to see, if any additions, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, we have to do it every 5 years now. So we hire a company, they come in and they do a town revaluation. So this is the money used to fund that. You don't see it as part of the annual budget because it's not done annually.
Okay.
So it's done as a special. So once the budget's approved, then we can go up to bid, and then we can hire someone to do the valuation.
Okay, is it people just taking out permits, or is it for everybody?
No, this is in the assessor's office.
The assessor-
So this is actually setting the values on the homes. They do a town valuation
Okay.
and personal property.
Can make your tax rate go up.
No, 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 no.
Depends on the market.
Not your tax rate.
Okay.
Your
No.
tax.
New
No,
tax.
remember, it's a pie, so that if the value of the house goes up,
Right.
the tax rate generally comes down.
Okay.
It doesn't go above the pies.
Nice shot, man.
It's, no,
So Gene, the 49.9, that's being asked to be approved for this fiscal year.
it is being asked to be approved now so that we can start the process. We cannot sign a contract without an appropriation.
But you won't get that appropriation till May 15 anyway, right?
Correct, correct. So we wouldn't start it until after that.
Okay.
Mandated, right? We don't
Okay.
have any choice in this matter, do
Any
we?
other questions?
No, thank you.
Through the
Okay.
check to Gene. We don't have any choice in the matter, we have to just,
We have to do it, yes, we have to do it.
so it's regulatorily required, we have to do it. We
So
don't
let's
have any
do it.
choice.
Okay,
Just making that clear for the folks at home.
okay, all right. Any motion to recommend Article 2?
I'll move we recommend Article 2.
Dick moves to recommend Article 2.
Second.
Second. Lynn, a second. So starting with Dick, a vote.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Kuiper's aye.
Phil Landry, aye.
Okay, Article 3, snow and ice transfer account. This is asking to transfer $150,000 from free cash to the fiscal year 2021 snow and ice account. Who's got that math for?
I am not going to say anything about snow at this time.
Okay.
This was the amount that was approved for deficit spending. That's the amount that's in here. We are not at this level yet, but we are not talking about it.
Just in case.
But in other words, this was the amount already approved for deficit spending?
Correct.
Okay, all right, okay.
I'm
So,
seeing Saturday's forecast.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so,
Okay, so a motion, I will entertain a motion to recommend Article 3 be passed.
I move to recommend Article 3.
Dick's motion,
Second.
Heather's second, a vote from Dick, starting with Dick.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Kuiper's aye.
Bill Landry, reluctantly, aye.
Yeah, okay. Article 4, water sewer generator, $50,000 from water sewer retained earnings for the engineer.
New backdrop and generator.
Is it Bill?
Bob.
Well, that was closer than the other guy.
Better than Chris.
Yeah.
Okay, you're
Chris.
you're batting like
All right.
100 tonight.
Bob, so go ahead.
So Bob Sullivan, Systems Manager for the Water Sewer Department.
Yeah.
So this is, we have a generator that runs, a backup generator for the wastewater treatment facility.
Is it one of those big
Big, yeah.
guys?
So it's a 400 kW generator down there right now. And the cost of that's approximately $100,000. So that's why there was engineering in here as well as to, in my opinion and based on numbers that I've run and calculated loads down there, I think that's way oversized and it may be part of the problem. Generators don't like to run without a load. And even at our highest load, it's still basically idle in that generator. So we looked at it and I got together with some people that design and spec out sizes for generators, and we figure we can cut that in half, which also cuts the price about in half. So the need for this is because the generator that we currently have failed, and I'm basically going on a wing and a prayer right now, hoping that it doesn't have a power outage where we need it. The problem is to have a temporary one brought in, it's approximately $12,000 a month to have it sit there, and I just kind of, I don't sleep at night just to try to save $12,000 a month so we can get to the point, because for some reason Gene won't let me bypass those gap rules and
How often do we lose power down there? Is it pretty rare?
Yeah, it's not
We
often,
get power
but
strikes. I live on Charles Street, so we do get power surges through. Generally speaking, it's normally on, but we do get the hiccup every once in a while.
yeah, I mean, like the ice storms that we had back, I don't even remember what year that was, but it was several years ago. I mean, we
That was 3 days.
were down for days down there, so you never know.
I have a generator in my
I have
garage.
a generator.
What's
Yeah.
the lifespan of this?
The current one that was down there was
The
from,
one you're asking to...
I mean, they should last a long time, but unfortunately, this one, when I went through it, because I looked at trying to get the engine rebuilt, but the one that was purchased, of course, that's one of the problems that I see with going with the lowest bidder. Another thing Gene requires us to do, actually, that'd be Matt with his procurement officer part.
Responsive and responsible, not lowest.
Yeah, so, anyway, the generator that we have, when I tried to get parts for it, the manufacturer said they no longer support that, can't get parts. I tried to find some used ones so we could try to come up with something, but everybody seemed to have the same problem. It was the engine was basically designed to put out 400 horsepower, and they took an engine that was designed to put out 400 horsepower and they souped it up to put out 605 horsepower. So it's kind of like that drag car that you soup up and you run it down the track, and you might make it a few times and blow the engine, or you might keep going, you don't know. So I think that's probably why we ended up with that one. It was affordable because they built something that wasn't really designed to be.
I guess my question is, this article asks for $50,000 for the purchase, the engineering or the purchase of a new backup generator.
Yeah.
Putting that money into a purchase of a new one, what's the anticipated life expectancy of a new one, Don?
I mean, it's like anything mechanical. It depends on your maintenance. We regularly have our generator serviced twice a year.
Okay.
I would think you should at least be able to get 20 years out of it.
Okay.
But the current one, we got 15.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Anyone, a motion to either approve or recommend?
I'll move, we approve Article 4.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Dick's motion and Phil's second. Go ahead, Dick, start it.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Kuiper's aye.
Bill Landry, aye.
James Bob.
I'll just sit here because I believe you're going to have questions for me for the next two.
Infrastructure improvements, engineering and design. Okay.
Water main replacement.
Can you address each of those, what it looks like, 3 water main replacements?
Yep, so this was looking at a project going down in between Gilboa Street and Northeast Main Street. So in order to provide water to that area sufficient for the uses that they need down there, we would have to increase and replace the water main in North Street from Main Street to the bridge. A couple years ago, we replaced a section within the bridge when we were doing some culvert work down there, and while we had the road shut down, we figured it was best to cross that bridge at that time. So we would need the new main from Main Street, which is a newer 16-inch main, continue that down and replace the 8-inch main that's in North Street with a 16-inch main down to that pipe that we already installed crossing the bridge. The second pipe would be on the other side of the bridge, continuing from where that new water main is, replacing a 6-inch water main with a new 12-inch water main going from the intersection of North Street and Gilboa down to the parking lot. It's like right at the entrance of the parking lot for the mill.
Before the curve there.
What's that?
Before the curve?
No, it's all the way right at the parking lot.
Okay.
Where the parking lot begins for the classic
Oh,
envelope.
where it begins, okay, yeah.
So right where that begins, because we have a new 12-inch main that was installed there back quite a while ago to bring water to the Shell station. So the Shell station actually paid to install the new water main there. So we would take out the bottleneck section of 6-inch, that's old cast iron pipe, and replace it with new 12-inch ductile to increase the flows down to that area. And then the third one is the replacement of the water line on Northeast Main Street from Davis Street. So Davis Street, there was a new water main installed coming down Main Street, was 16, then it went to 12-inch where Northeast Main starts, and it goes all the way to the high school, new 12-inch ductile iron. So we would tie into that new 12-inch line and replace the current 8-inch line that goes up Northeast Main, which is kind of a variety of pipe. You've got AC pipe, cast iron pipe, and a little bit of ductile iron up there. We would be replacing that with a 12-inch water main all the way to the town line. And then eventually when that project, if that moves forward, it would run a line from the Northeast Main Street line down to the new, or to the section on Gilboa Street, creating a loop and increasing fire flows for that whole end of town.
Does Uxbridge water stop at Serendipity, more or less?
Correct.
Or no, to the new park?
Yes, it's up this way a little more, yeah.
Not up to West Street, then?
No.
Okay.
Bob, these are for the engineering and design costs, not
Correct.
the actual work, correct?
No, the actual work is probably going to be closer to the $2.5, $3 million range.
All right. Bill?
Through the chair, why would these not go on normal budgeting for the year? Why are they in a special?
Because, well, part of this is only a portion of it. I already funded some of this through my budget, but this project came up in the middle of the year and wasn't actually budgeted for. But in order to meet deadlines that we have for applying for funding and grants through MassWorks and the SRF funding. There's applications that need to be completed prior to next year's funding, and if we didn't have the engineering done into a 90% ready point, then we wouldn't be eligible to apply for those loans or grants. So,
Phil, just a reminder, anything voted on the special town meeting takes effect immediately after the special town meeting, so May 16th. Anything voted on the annual doesn't take effect until July 1st. They can't utilize the money.
right, so that's why we needed to do it as a special, because we need to
You need the funds before
finalize before
the
July.
fiscal year.
Correct,
To get shovel ready for.
to get shovel ready for the purpose.
So this is all community development thing again,
Correct,
but unbudgeted from last year.
correct.
But now if everything's moving along, I'm assuming this is going to feed into our community development that we've been talking about.
Yes.
I have kind of a question related. Where does our water come from? When do we hit a point where, can we supply water the way we would like to, or do we?
Yes, currently we're in good standing. Mr. Wojcik brought up Dudley.
Okay.
Dudley runs their pumps like 24/7 trying to keep up.
Okay.
We have 4 wells at 3 different sites. They're all groundwater wells. We have a tubular well field over on West Street, right next to GBI. You probably see the big brick building there, just past GBI. That was the original well field from 1910 when they established the water department in town. So we're still using that same well. Across the street, down just a little bit, we have another vertical turbine well. It's a gravel pack well. Operates in a different manner, but same thing, groundwater. So that one also provides, and then we have 2 newer wells on Glen Street. Again, they're groundwater wells. So we average roughly 7 hours of runtime on all those wells. So we have plenty of capacity. What we're limited by is our water management withdrawal permit. That was something that, before Mr. Wojcik was here, we got issued a new permit. It was restricted. They dropped down how much we were authorized to withdraw based on a report that DCR submitted saying that Douglas doesn't need that much water, so they wanted to restrict it. Should we need more water, we have to go and apply to get that number increased again. Currently, we have enough within our withdrawal permit to supply what we currently need, plus some of this future development.
Thank you.
So currently, we run about 200,000 gallons a day. We can withdraw 320,000 gallons a day currently. But the capacity based on our wells is just under 1 million gallons a day.
Okay.
So that gives you a little better understanding.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions on Article 5? A motion?
I move to approve.
Lynn's motion to recommend approval.
Second.
Second, Dick?
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Piper's aye.
Phil Landry, aye.
Okay, and Article 6, Bob, I suspect you're going to speak on Article 6?
Me again, yeah.
Sure.
So this is another project that we're doing. This is on the sewer side. We were required by regulations to evaluate our entire sewer system, the collection system, to determine if inflow and infiltration, that's anytime it rains, there's different methods of water that can get into the collection system. So it diminishes our capacity at a treatment plant. So the state, they're trying to minimize the effects of that. They started trying to separate sewer and storm drain combined systems. We don't have a combined system. Everything is separate, so all our pipes are sewer only. But when it rains out, sometimes there's cracks in the pipes, infiltration comes in, and it adds to the flow at the treatment plant and reduces our capacity. So we have to do a full evaluation of the entire system. This is kind of phase one of the study. When I presented it to my board, I told them I needed $150,000 for phase one, and that there would be additional phases after we conducted phase one, but we don't know how much phase two or phase three will cost until we complete phase one to determine what needs to be done, you know, as to repairs or upgrades or whatever we may need. So when I told them that I needed $150,000 for the first phase, and then I told them there was additional phases, they misinterpreted that and took my $150,000 and cut it into three, so only gave me $50,000 for the first year, which was insufficient. And they said, well, if you need more, you go to the fall town meeting or the special town meeting to get the additional funds. But unfortunately, last year, the budget didn't get approved until, was that October? So October, and by the time I was able to enter into a contract with the engineers, it was past the time to be able to file for the additional funds in this fall town meeting. So that's why I'm here at the spring special town meeting, to get the additional funds to finish a portion of phase one.
Any questions?
I do. Is any of this covered by rates, like water, sewer rates?
This is all rates.
I mean, is it covered by the people that utilize?
Just the people that are on the system, yes.
Okay, so
No taxpayer money out of these.
no tax.
So far, all three of these articles are funded solely by ratepayers.
Okay, thank you. Good.
Any other questions? You good?
Well, wait, I have one more. What happens if we don't do this?
We would be in violation of the regulations, and they could potentially fine us, and fines through this department could be $25,000 a day per violation. So
We have no choice.
it would be foolish to not complete it.
Thank you. I make a motion to accept Article 6.
Sandy's motion.
Second.
Dick's second. Dick?
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Piper's aye.
Bill Landry, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
I don't think you need me for any of the other ones.
Nope.
Thank you.
I think that was the answer I expected on the second question, but you still want to know.
I still want to know.
You still want to know.
You gotta spend it,
Why is
right.
this coming to me like
Right.
I have to? Because that's what it feels like.
There's a lot more questions.
Right.
We've got nothing for
Right.
7 or 8.
There's certain things you learn, you're going to be voting in favor of, almost for that.
Yeah.
Parts of the town they have to run,
Right,
right? They
it
just
has
have
to
to
run.
run, and there are regs,
Right.
they're required.
No, I totally get it.
And so the issue becomes the amount, you can ask it, budgeting, and putting it out to bid, and all those types of things. And does it have to be 31, can it be 10 for 26?
Right.
Right?
Who's a big
Right.
fan of unplanned expenses? Nobody.
Nobody.
All right, so let's go to
So they better be
the,
emergencies.
so Gene, I have 3 documents for the annual town meeting that I would like to understand how they integrate for
You
this
have
evening.
2 articles on the special that Matt has to provide waivers for.
Well,
I thought, since they were blank, there
Are
was
you
nothing.
providing waivers tonight?
For 7,
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
yeah.
And bear with me, and I don't mean to be flip about this.
No, I'm going to have questions on this
Well, it's
one.
good.
Are you
There's an open
providing
box there though
verbatim?
for it, so we can.
No.
Okay.
In fact, Gene's otherwise occupied, but I think we're asking town meeting for $6,161 of free cash
On set.
yes, to supplement a $50,000 state grant
Right.
for an electric vehicle charging station.
So our Teslas, we can all charge our Teslas
Oh,
in
that's
town.
good. I just ordered 4.
So I'm much more devious.
They're out.
Much more devious than that, so that you can charge them here and the town can make the money on the electricity.
What's the amount, Matt?
And still charge you less than you might pay somewhere else.
Give me, how does that scan?
Now, what's the amount again? 6,000?
6161,
Oh,
To be added to a grant of 50.
50,000.
So
It's 50,000, it's
I will
capped.
entertain a motion to table the approval of Article 7 until we see actual language.
Yeah, that's fine.
So
Do
moved.
that the morning of the town meeting. Dick's motion?
Table, a technical term? How does
It
that
is.
work?
Yes.
Can I
Yes.
just ask how they decided
Okay.
where?
I don't-
It's not a pie brand.
allowed to ask?
Well, that's
Table
what-
talk,
Is it, I thought it might be continued, or?
not tabling. It's
Tabling.
Robert's Rules of Order.
I have a question. How did you decide where to put the charging stations?
Sometimes we do things because time is of the essence. So the EVIP program, the electric vehicle charging program, at this level, which is basically full funding, is going away. It's going away in a couple of months. And our consultant called up and said, if you want to do this, I need a location, and I'll file the application tomorrow. Now, this parking lot here is pretty good. It's pretty central here in town. We have a long line of unused parking spots, and we have kind of a lot of juice coming into this building in terms of electricity. So it's going to go under the parking lot and use some unused spaces on this side of the row, so we can still use the,
Basketball court?
yeah,
Yeah.
so we can use the security for the Craigslist exchange zone that we have there and still be able to see people. So yes, we can charge people, and there's no cap on what we charge people.
Yeah.
But bear in mind that the town of Douglas typically pays less for electricity than most people do because they're a residential customer and we're a commercial customer. So we can charge less than other people would and still make more than it costs the town and use that to offset the operating expenses. There's a long-term plan here to make the town much more energy and truly net zero energy independent is well within our conceptual grasp at this point. Article 8,
Oh,
you want me to jump ahead?
haven't gotten it. Yeah.
table.
Questions
So
about
moved.
the technical term of the word table, which I think we
It's been resolved.
Yeah.
have we
Yeah, it's
satisfied
been
this, Bill?
resolved.
Yep.
Yes, sir,
All
Chair.
right, excellent. I'll look for a second. Do
So
you want
moved.
the technical
Yep.
use of the term second?
Yes, I can second.
We'll
Second.
table that.
Yeah, so table
So a
that.
second?
Second.
I think Lynn.
Okay, I'm going to take Lynn's second. I'll vote.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Christina Capers, aye.
Bill Landry, aye.
Okay, so that's tabled till the morning
The
of
meeting.
the special town meeting, actually.
Yeah.
And you'll get us, we'll have language.
Yes, you will.
Yeah.
Okay.
And do you have a couple of minutes on 8, or are you ready on it?
I do. There's a monumentally convoluted process for one department of the town to transfer property back to the town. And we have a economic development interest that wants to create a training school for hoisting licenses and CDLs, and is very interested in a property that is now controlled by the school committee. It's this whole thing. The Board of Selectmen request the school committee deliberates. If the school committee agrees, then they have to go to town meeting and ask town meeting to authorize the transfer. It's a 2/3 vote. And then whatever that authorization that comes out of town meeting would be the way the Board of Selectmen operates. We're so many steps removed, however, time is of the essence. So if I can get it done, I'll get it done. But if the school committee's not ready, then it won't happen.
Matt, it's, the last half of this is missing. Transfer to who or whom?
To the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. Town to town.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Anyone with any questions?
So it's going from school committee to the Board of Selectmen, so they can dispose of it and/or.
There's actually a portion of it, right? So this was one of the lots originally pulled together to build the high school. And it's 13 acres. The suitor here only needs the front 6 that are along Davis Street. The other 7 would stay with the schools. You know it as a little driveway as you go up Davis Street where the town dumps its snow from downtown when we have excess snow. There's a driveway there with a little gate, and there's like a berm with pine trees, and that's where it would.
Never noticed.
Davis Street is the new center of Douglas, you know.
Looks like virgin land now is what it is.
Well, nothing is virgin land.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no improvements.
No, there is nothing there now.
Motion to table this until right before special town meeting?
So moved.
Dick's motion?
Second.
Heather's a second. Dick, a vote?
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore and I.
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Capers, aye.
Phil Landry, aye.
Okay. Now, if we can, Gene, move to the annual town meeting. And so I have, Gene, when we came in a little after 7, you gave us the updated annual town, thank you, Mark. Yeah.
I did change the numbers
Or
on
Chris.
Article 1, 2, and 3.
Aha.
Heather's gonna check me on it, because it's a little foggy today.
That's
Is this
the
different than-
secret document, Gene.
Secret
Right?
document.
You're gonna replace the
Rock
motions on
or
this.
This
what?
one, okay.
He does.
Right?
This is different?
Yes.
So
Yes,
the number
it is.
went
It
up.
wasn't.
Yeah,
Yes, it went up.
well, it matched
Thank
what
you.
happened between 7 o'clock and 7:30.
Oh, I see the top numbers.
Matt, correct?
Yep.
What did
Gene?
match?
What we were just handed was meant to match the events of 7 to 7:30. Yeah, okay. And that was where I was headed for a minute.
Okay.
So what we've just been handed, Gene, is now,
Now it matches.
yeah, is Article 1. So Gene, this document, if you can see what I'm holding up, that's not what I'm looking toward. I'm actually looking to address these, correct?
Well, those are the motions, yes.
Right? Okay.
But they go together.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we've had this discussion. I might forget it over. Okay, so, fine. So take, well, I still would prefer to take the motion document, because it's got the specificity in it. So let's take a look, folks, at Article 1, Finance Committee report. And this is really the article that approves effectively, Gene, correct, the entire town budget.
Correct.
Okay, and this is the proposal for the year, effectively also from the town manager and the Board of Selectmen, correct? Matthew, this is your number, right? And the board's? Okay. All right. So, are there any questions? This is a big article. It's always interesting to me that at town meeting, this article passes in 8 seconds, and then we spend 43 hours on the later, right?
Yeah.
It's just incredible. So,
Now you know the magic.
what, get it in first, right?
Well, that's
When people are just congregating. So are there any questions from the Finance Committee with regard to, of anyone here, with regard to Article 1?
So the difference between what you had put and what you have now is just last minute adjustments and wrangling to the thing, to the numbers that Matt gave us?
I didn't have the numbers at all. I think what you had was a cut and paste from last year. And once I received the final 6-page document, we updated them.
Okay.
So Phil, if I can.
Yeah, oh, you can go ahead, you're the chairman.
The timing mattered tonight. So I came in literally, right, I ran it at 7:05 because I'd been told that the public meeting would start at 7:05, and I used every minute. When I got here at 7:05, the Board of Selectmen was still full meeting going on here.
Sure.
And they were still voting, working on the budget. And so they adjourned to go down the hallway. They took me out with them. And we started the public hearing with rough numbers, estimates. I think in the middle of that, you came in.
Yeah.
Right? And then were you here when a couple minutes later, Matt and Gene came in with what they had just covered?
Yeah, no, I was there.
So that's where this math occurred. So what we got at 7 or 7:05 was guesstimates, or as Dean said, projections, placeholder numbers. And what we got at 7:30, if you will, were the real numbers, correct?
And now we have the real numbers. Okay.
So, any other questions on Article 1? This incorporates, Matt, everything we really heard tonight from each of the departments, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what I heard, and you guys recognized, I pointed out, I asked school committee, school board in particular, if they were satisfied with their numbers, and they indicated they were, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so unless there are any other questions, I would entertain a motion to recommend that Article 1 be a motion to recommend the passage of Article 1.
So moved.
Dick's motion, a second.
Second.
Lynn's second. So we're going to go around the horn, starting with Dick.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Helen Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Kuiper's aye.
Phil Landry, aye.
And for the record, great work to all those that got into those numbers this year, Matt, to get here, to get what appears to be, and one of the first times I've been on the board, a real uniform agreement amongst a lot of groups. That, and what you said earlier, that we're moving in the right direction is much appreciated, and the work that went into that. Article 2, am I sort of kind of...
Article 1, 2, and 3 are combined.
Oh, good.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So let's, Dick, why don't you make a motion to approve Articles 1, 2, and 3, or recommend the approval of Articles 1, 2, and 3?
Okay, so I will move, we recommend Articles 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. And Lynn?
Second.
Okay, and let's vote now on that. Dick?
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Helen Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzoli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Kuiper's aye.
Phil Landry, aye.
Okay. So let's go to Article 4. Gene, am I correct? Article 4's money is up on top of Article 1, 2, and 3's money, correct? Okay. And we go through this, at least with me each year. I will just say very quickly, I always have my concerns with regard to the number. Well, let's, I'll have, I suppose, debate or just a quick statement. I always am concerned, I ask now, this year more than ever, put Dr. Fitzpatrick on notice from last year that I wanted him as our vendor in this category to be matching and not exceeding the year over year for the town. School department and his proposal came above that, and so I can anticipate, you can anticipate that I would vote against this. But, any other debate anybody wants to have?
So has there ever been any coalition of the towns? So this is at this point in time, it's a done, signed legal document, not this number that we're going to vote on.
1962, yeah.
Yeah, but there's a done legal document out there that says what will happen for
It
the
says that
appropriations.
if 9 towns out of 13 vote to approve it, then it's approved in the other towns. It didn't have to back their way into it later. And that's happened each year that we've gone against the recommendation.
I have them right there with you. So is there, or has there ever been a coalition of towns that are affected by this agreement that can kind of, I guess, override, veto, reconfigure the contract? Is that a possibility
So
through
Phil,
the chair to Matt?
I'll do that first, and then, if Matt's got anything to add. So it's been my view that really is not, if you will, what I'd call a coalition. It's simply perhaps either a finance chair or vice chair or members of a finance committee then going to other finance committee town meetings while they are looking to vote to approve, to urge them or suggest to them, lobby them, if you will, to have their finance committees or their towns then also vote against the appropriation at their annual town meeting. So I don't know that you could even get a voice at a town meeting, right, at standing, if you will. You might get a voice at FinCom in a town to suggest that a FinCom then vote to disapprove the number. In the 5 or 6 years I've been on the committee, it's been talked about. In some part, it's on me, and I haven't done it. I haven't gone around to those other towns. It's a little bit of work, I can't tell you what the temperature would be. I can tell you what the temperature would be, right? We've certainly had indicia over the years from several of the towns that they might be open to the idea. I think I've suggested publicly last fall at our town meeting that the purpose of why I wanted to vote against it, even though it was already at that point, 9 already had approved, was because I wanted to send a signal to the other towns that there were 12 out of 13 and we were looking for help.
Right.
But that's never come, and I think that would have to be done in person. We just haven't gotten there yet.
Right.
Yet.
Yeah, so one of the things that I was looking at was, is there a legal mechanism by which you can do this in the contract? In other words, does the contract allow you to kind of, I guess, take back power and/or reconfigure the contract, or is it a...
The contract says that if 9 towns approve it, it's approved, period.
And that's it?
That's it.
So you've got to go to the other towns. Matt, anything I said that you'd substantially disagree with? I mean, we
So
go
the
over this year over
the selectmen are the people who actually approve or reject the contract? Yes, no?
No, you're misunderstanding. The contract is from 1960.
Sure, no, I get that part.
It's long since approved. The terms of the contract are that if 9 towns approve the request, then it's approved by all 13, period.
Right. But that's only for the 1 year.
No.
But
No.
No.
Yeah, so it's more than a contract, it's a regional agreement, education agreement. Yeah, except that, so in my procurement world, I really can't do a contract for more than 3 years. I'd have to revisit the terms of it. But this is a forever kind of thing, and
There are potential violations of it.
there are.
Yeah, but that's different.
There's a poison pill. If you leave, you have to pay off your share of the debt. Now, we only have, I think Dr. Fitzpatrick said 5 years left. So at this point, it's 150, 160 grand left. Our share of the debt that's being carried.
Excuse me?
So.
Maybe that's for another day.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
But it's yeah.
There's a couple of things you could do. I'll enter into it with this caveat. I have spent more hours than most human beings in a political boiler room doing crazy stuff to defeat seemingly undefeatable people and ideas. And there's a trick, and I'm actually pretty good at it. It's not what I do anymore. I'm a town administrator. I abide by the code of ethics of the ICMA, and I'm not to be involved in politics. So I think I'm getting real close to the line if I start building a coalition of people to do something that through a political mechanism. I really think that's for the Board of Selectmen and for Finance Committee members to charge. I can provide you with information and ideas. To me, the way to skin this cat is probably through a lawsuit. Because I think, no, but this gets real heady stuff, so I'll be really concise. It is very odd that the school committee for the Blackstone Valley Tech School District is made up of 13 people. They have to be elected from the boundaries of the town that they represent. Yet, look at your ballot. You vote for all 13 people. So if you were a nasty person like me, you'd go out and get 13 candidates.
One in each town.
One in each town.
Yeah.
And you'd put the other side on notice. That's one, but secondly...
That doesn't resolve it. That just is the committee that would...
It sharpens your pencil around the constitutional issue, which is what right does anybody from Douglas have to cast votes in an election in Millbury to determine who Millbury's representative to the BVT school committee is going to be? The whole thing is really weird and wrong and looks like taxation without representation in a big kind of way. I'm using cliches. But that multiple-pronged strategy is how you do this. I've sat in a room, I went to Upton Town Hall with 8 or 9 town administrators and managers with Dr. Fitzpatrick, and grilled him on a number of issues, including health insurance. And this was about 2 years ago. And at that point, he'd gotten more than one person in the room angry. So Millbury wasn't too happy with him, Sutton wasn't too happy with him, and Grafton, I think, wasn't too happy with him. So we had 4 people all of a sudden on the same page, and I think it did make him a little nervous. So he ran off and he did some health insurance stuff. You'll notice he was snapped to it on that because he could see the coalition building in the room. I don't know where any of these people are now. The town manager in Grafton has departed, so has Millbury. Sutton, I don't know where they stand this year. I don't think they got hit the way we got hit in terms. It happens to be that we're the little kid on the playground that always gets beat up by this superintendent, because we have way more kids in this system than the other towns our size. So
I don't know.
That's another discussion.
I find that to be the math.
What's that?
I don't want to get deep into that tonight. I don't know if I found that consistently to be mathematically accurate.
Oh, no, we're more than twice our. So if you look at our population and how much we send, oh, it's more than twice. I think we're 8% of the student body, we're only 3% of the population.
All right.
It's 122 kids. It's 20% of our eligible high school population.
Well,
Don't get me started.
we've had many discussions about that issue from a different side of it. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm going to say that it suffices for this evening.
Yeah, because we'd have to start at 7.
We would have need like a lunch break and all kinds of PowerPoint presentations.
We would have needed to not have the public forum before this meeting.
It's a different event. So,
yeah.
Any other questions with regard to, or comments with regard to Article 4? So I will take a motion, I will entertain only first from the floor, from the chair, right, Phil? The chair's honor.
Yeah, sure.
To recommend or to deny the BVT request.
I make a motion to deny the BVT request.
Sandy's motion to deny the BVT request. I'm looking for a second.
I'll second that one.
Bill's second.
Sure.
And so all those, let's vote then on Sandy Kuiper's motion, or on the FinCom's motion to deny the request of BVT for its funding request. Dick?
Dick Vandenberg, nay.
Heather Moore, nay.
Okay, so let's make it clear what the nays
No,
are.
no.
So Dick, you're against Sandy's motion?
Correct.
Correct, yeah? That's okay. Heather, you're against Sandy's motion?
I'm not against Sandy.
No, I
No.
understand.
No one would have said that. That was not on the table.
I have to go with nay as well.
Okay, so I'm in favor, Howard D'Amico, in favor of the motion?
Yeah.
Name
Favor
not.
of the, no, I am in favor of my motion. Sandy Kuiper's aye, I guess?
Correct, that's
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
Phil Landry, aye.
Okay, so that was a 3-3 vote, okay? And that's the way we'll report it to town meeting, okay? All right, Article 5.
You're gaining momentum, Howard. You're gaining momentum.
Ooh, that was a loss of momentum.
Yeah, we passed it last year.
Yeah, last year we denied it. Right, yeah. We denied the request.
Right,
yeah,
correct.
yeah.
I think we keep that momentum.
Heather, you, right? We lost your vote, because last year you were, that's okay.
You switched sides. on that.
No, that's, there are all sorts of reasons. I'm good. We're good.
Yeah, let's just move on.
Let's
Yes.
move on.
Because
Yeah.
it's late.
Well,
Lynn, nice. There you go. Lynn's cracking the whip on
No,
us.
because the BVT thing could take us hours to
Article
talk
five.
about.
Yeah, no, I
And it's
totally
not,
agree.
Article 5.
you know. Do you have town resident present?
Jean, a relatively typical article on this?
Yes.
Any unusual math in this
No,
year?
the only comment I would say is that we do take a lot from retained earnings for the operating budget. The Board of Health is aware of that, but the effort to increase the fees won't be made until after we sign the 3-year contract for the hauling, and that should happen this year, hopefully. And
This-
then they'll restructure the fees.
This fiscal year or this calendar year?
It would be at 122.
Okay, thank you.
Do they put out bids to different vendors to haul out of the transfer station? Is there just one company that does it?
No, I think they solicit.
And who puts the limitations on the big dumpsters? Like you can't bring a big plastic thing and so on. Is that our people that do that, or is the hauler do that?
That would, you probably ask the Board of Health that question.
Yeah.
Not the way we're going to address it.
Solid waste hauling is exempt from Chapter 30.
Okay.
So you can still go out and try to solicit bids, but good luck. It's
Okay.
pretty terrible.
I should have asked the Board of Health when she was here, but I didn't, so.
Any other discussion? I would entertain a motion to approve
So moved.
Article 5. Lynn's motion?
Second. Lynn's got it.
I've got Dick's.
Or Heather's got it.
Second.
Yeah.
So Dick, a vote on 5.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Capers, aye.
Bill Landry, aye.
Article 6.
$1.5 million.
Gene, anything unusual in this
Mr.
request?
Sullivan's here if you should have any questions. This is the water sewer operating budget for FY '22.
Bob, anything unusual this year?
No, nothing out of the ordinary. There's a few projects that are kind of outside our normal operating budget, which are where the retained earnings usage is coming from.
Bob, what percentage of our people are on town water and sewer? Roughly? Half?
Percentage-wise, where the population served is like 7,800.
Oh, so, and the town is
So
9,000?
majority.
3,800, sorry.
Oh,
That's the whole town.
the majority of the town.
That's 100% coverage you guys are providing. Wow.
3,800, so.
Okay.
Where the heck is my free water coming from?
It's not free.
I know. I know, I didn't see the pipe. I didn't know where it was, so I was kind of wondering. There might be some phantom pipe in my house that I didn't know.
Motion?
We are on you.
Heather, second?
Yep.
Okay, Dick?
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Capers, aye.
Bill Landry, aye.
Okay, Article 7.
Which is normal.
Pretty normal, yeah.
Gene, anything unusual in Article 7?
There is not anything unusual.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to recommend approval of Article 7.
So moved.
Lynn's motion, Heather's second. Dick, a vote.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Capers, aye.
Bill Landry, aye.
Article 8, recurring business. Gene, anything unusual in Article 8?
There is not anything unusual. These are housekeeping items.
Yep. I would entertain a motion to approve, recommend approval of Article 8.
So moved.
Heather's motion,
Second.
Lynn's second. Dick?
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather?
Oh, Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Capers, aye.
Bill Landry, aye.
Heather's getting
Wake
ahead of us.
up.
No, she's not. She's getting ahead. Article 9.
Oh. Missed 9.
Who would like to explain what Article 9 says?
Article 9 is just the compensation schedule.
No, okay. This is the existing one, no
It's on
changes?
another page.
Yeah,
Holy cow.
yep,
Right?
That sets the rates
Yep.
for the non-union personnel.
okay. So there's
And
no
Matt,
changes in this?
Is this what you've been talking about?
Yep.
This is the vote to finally put the,
No, that's what I'm going to work on this year,
Ah,
get you a better
fair enough.
system.
Yeah.
This is the
older
existing.
system.
Okay.
And that's where finally you're ready to add
Yeah.
this part of the department, or this part of the town's employees into that same system you recommended, police and fire. Okay, thank you. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve or recommend approval of Article 9.
So moved.
Heather's motion.
Second.
Dick's second. Dick, a vote.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Chapman's aye.
Bill Landry, aye.
Article 10.
Adoption of revised.
And we've seen this, correct? This is everything in the capital improvements budget. Entertain a motion to recommend approval of this.
So moved.
Dick's motion.
Second.
And second, Dick.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Chapman's aye.
Bill Landry, aye.
Article 11, a complete blank slate, whatever we want.
Wow.
Go ahead. Who
Personnel
wants to
bylaw
create a
change.
motion, bylaw, the Phil Landry bylaw.
Yeah.
What
I'm in
is this?
That's what I
favor,
would
Matt,
write
what are we
in.
doing with Article 11?
I'm in favor of longevity.
Language I owe you?
We're tabling it?
Table?
Full table on it? Will it likely come in?
No, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right. So Dick, does someone want to make a motion to?
I'll move we table Article 11.
Okay, Dick's motion,
Second.
and a vote, starting with Dick.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Chapman's aye.
Bill Landry, aye.
So Article 12, can we vote on that yet?
No.
No.
Yeah, we should have just tabled them all.
I just gave that to you tonight, I would encourage
Yeah,
you.
it's a placeholder, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I move we
The work is
table
done.
Article 12.
12 and 13.
Well, let's do them, I'm gonna take an extra 60 seconds. Dick's motion, table Article 12.
Second.
Heather's second, Dick, a vote.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Chapman's aye.
Bill Landry, aye.
And Article 13, anybody want to make a motion to table?
Make a motion to table.
Lynn's motion to table.
Second.
Heather's second. Dick.
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Chapman's aye.
Bill Landry, aye.
And Article 14, school bus contract status, Matt?
So these are for the school department. What the business manager is looking to do, and I'm fine with it, is to try to, in recognition of the fact that we'll never get a competitive bid for school bus contracts, lengthen out the term and with renewals, so that perhaps she can drive a little bit of a bargain when the renewal comes up and give us some leverage. Because it's never competitive, we always get one bid. So that's one way to deal with this, is to condition the renewal. This economic conditions can change, so the renewal would be under terms favorable to the town. That's what she's looking for there. And I think on the other one,
Let's stay with 14
Yeah.
for a minute. This is seeking to, who currently has the authority to enter into the bus contracts? School committee?
you want the technical answer is that the chief procurement officer of the town delegates that authority to the school committee.
Okay. And so this article then is just looking for them to have the ability, if they'd like, to go in excess of 3 years?
We're limited to 3 years. If we want to go to 5, we need town meeting authorization.
And this doesn't ensure that it would have to go to 5, just
Right.
gives them the flexibility
Yes.
if they wanted to go beyond 3, if they thought it was beneficial.
I think they already have a document. Thank you.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to recommend Article 14.
So moved.
Heather's motion.
Second.
Lynn's second. Dick, did you follow that? Or you want a minute?
Why does this come before the finance committee?
Because town meeting has to vote it. It's a financial matter. Do you
Oh,
think it's to the
okay.
benefit of the town?
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay, yeah.
Flexibility, it just gives the town school committee
We
flexibility.
approve of buses being
Right.
used to transport the children.
Or Phil's car.
That's pretty much it. And I'm
Dick
really-
Vandenberg, aye.
I am
Hello,
not going to
Brian.
drive.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Sandy Kuiper's aye.
Bill Landry, aye.
Okay. And Article 15, anything about textbooks I like.
Well, it's kind of the same thing.
It is the same thing,
Defer
right?
to Heather on this, but my understanding is most digital subscriptions are sold in 5-year blocks.
Okay.
We save a good deal of money by going for 5 years instead of 3.
Anyone in favor of textbooks? Anyone want a motion to approve or recommend?
So moved.
Heather's motion,
Second.
and second. Dick?
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Dave Kuipers, aye.
Bill Landry, aye.
Okay, so I'm now going to go to the agenda, and I'm going to skip reserve fund transfers. I'm going to skip topics not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance. I'm going, excuse me, I'm going to skip town administrator's budget update, which we've really done. Review and vote recommendations on those. Discuss finance committee message and recommendation for the finance committee's town meeting flyer. Shall we discuss that you'll leave it to me to have Jean tell me what we're going to say?
Absolutely.
And then we'll say it?
Absolutely. Yep.
Not quite. Not quite. Okay? And then, so Jean, what did you need us to address?
I didn't know if you wanted, I saw Dick taking notes on tonight's meeting, if you wanted him to take a stab at it first?
No.
No?
Don't we have a person now that is doing the note-taking and giving us minutes
I had a
ultimately?
little trouble with hearing some of the motions, so I'll work with you on it.
Gina, I apologize. I thought via the tape, the person who is
She
hired.
hasn't started with the finance committee yet, she's still working on the backlog.
Oh my.
Had I known that, I would have taken notes.
I know, and I have.
would have
And my notes were,
Just double check.
mine were sort of sketchy, but I did take some.
Yeah, we can work together.
Okay,
I
all
rely on
right,
the video.
okay. Gene, what is the, yeah, right? So
Yeah.
Gene, what is the schedule of department bills payable that I was handed
That
mid-meeting?
is for the postage for the flyer.
That's the normal.
And do you need a vote on that?
I do, as well as signatures.
And it's just the one item, $591.04?
Correct.
And this is a motion to approve, does this come out of our little finance committee budget?
It does.
Okay, motion to approve $591.04 to be used for the flyer.
So moved.
Second.
Lynn, motion, and Heather, second vote. Dick?
Dick Vandenberg, aye.
Heather Moore, aye.
Lynn Mazzulli, aye.
Howard D'Amico, aye.
Dave Kuipers, aye.
Bill Landry, aye.
And so I would ask just one signature from each, right? Okay. So the next item then is the next meeting. And it sounds as though, unless anyone thinks otherwise, that the next meeting will be, Jean, is the town meeting 10 or 10:30 on the
I was
15th?
told 10:30.
Okay. Why don't we meet, if I might, 9:45? So 45 minutes before.
In the library, like last time?
Is that where we've met the last summer, last fall?
Yeah.
In the, what is that middle building?
Yeah, it's the library. I can
elementary school.
request that.
Yeah.
What's that?
I can request that.
Okay, for 9:45 on May 15th.
So we're not meeting until that day.
I think that's correct,
Right.
right?
That's
On the
not that
15th,
far
right?
off,
On the
yeah.
15th. Any other motions?
Make a motion to
Motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Sandy's
Yeah.
motion to
I'll second.
adjourn. Your best motion of the evening. And
I'll
I
second
think
her.
Heather, I got on the second. All
There you
those in
go.
favor?
Aye.
Unanimous consent?
Yes.
We're adjourned. Thank you all for your time.